The Arctic. For many, it conjures up images of a cold, hostile place. But as an artist who loves the wilderness, I see a vast and mysterious land beckoning to be explored and painted. But there are huge challenges in doing that. It's over 5,000 kilometers away from my home, with only one road that even gets you close. Then there's getting around once there, across rugged land with ever-changing weather, and wildlife that, while beautiful, can be dangerous. So why bother? Because it's breathtaking. Mountains, glaciers, canyons, fjords, tundra, icebergs, wild rivers. An exciting variety of form, color, and light, different from anything I've painted before. The challenge of bringing my paints and my family into this remote land is as exhilarating as a sense of discovery that comes with the exploration. The hope of bringing awareness to this fragile, changing environment through my art furthers the drive to push my limits. If I don't do this now, then when? After almost a year of research and planning, we were at last underway. Attempting to do justice to the variety found across the Arctic, I developed a plan to create dozens of paintings for this new collection. Because of short seasons, difficult access to the land, and the time I need to explore and paint in the field, it became clear that this needed to be a multi-year project. Dividing up the map of the Canadian Arctic into 3 huge regions, one for each of 3 years, helped me to narrow down my focus a bit. Choosing the Western Arctic for our inaugural trip, I saw the opportunity for a cross-country drive from our rural home in Caledon, an hour north of Toronto, Ontario. As on previous excursions, my wife Janet and our daughters would be exploring together with me. More than just joining us for the adventure, Andy and Sydney, at the ages of 11 and 7, would also be sharing their perspectives through video journals and stories on our website. Janet, meanwhile, would pursue her photography and keep our family functioning at the same time. To make the most of the 20,000 kilometers that would be covered in 2.5 months, we planned on many side treks along the way. The RV we purchased for this journey would serve as a traveling base camp and give us a comfortable way to transport all our gear, including our canoe, tents, backpacks, canvases, filming gear, and a whole lot more.
Ow! Tight? Yeah. Ow? Where does it hurt? We don't want it to hurt. Well, you punched me in the stomach.
Northeastern British Columbia saw us itching to get out again and stretch our legs. The wild Rocky Mountains became a testing ground to challenge ourselves for the Arctic to come.
Okay.
Yeah, what's the hardest part, Sid?
Walking.
Walking, but you run around all day long. How can this be hard for you? Though we heard a few whines along the way, our girls made it through the 7-hour hike in fine shape. Janet's right knee, however, began to ache with every step back down, and the pain wouldn't leave for weeks to come. Abundant wildlife and more great scenery accompanied us to Dawson City, famed for its gold rush history. There, we would prepare to trade in the pavement for 750 kilometers of dirt, gravel, and mud, known as the Dempster Highway. I had read about the challenges of driving the Dempster, the only road in Canada to cross the Arctic Circle. Just before we got on, we heard another traveler talk about the 3 tires they just blew during their drive. I started to wonder if we were truly prepared. As we began our trek, I soon realized that trying to take in all the incredible scenery would keep us moving at a crawl and keep us out of harm's way. We were still many miles from technically reaching the Arctic, but I couldn't wait anymore. With scenery far too spectacular to drive past, we headed out onto the tundra, where I could finally start to paint. That should do for now, Sid. You're wrecking my brush. Not much left of it. Roughing it in here, but that valley line goes back
Daddy,
there.
when I do a paint, I want to try to paint like you.
Yeah.
Can I keep it up while you're here? Go back.
Even if I didn't get as far as I was hoping to, it's certainly been beneficial, and just really experiencing the beautiful region of the Yukon.
Move over and
Yeah.
that doesn't move. Only clouds.
One of the unique ecosystems that the Dempster allows access to is the subarctic permafrost lake. Giving us a break from the road, we explored one by canoe, offering us a different perspective on the surrounding landscape. Down through that river. After passing the Arctic Circle, all that remained before reaching the end of the Dempster was crossing the Peel and the Mackenzie rivers and over 100 kilometers more. At last, we arrived at Inuvik, the end of the road. Here is where the adventure was to really begin.
What is it?
Breakfast and
A little bit of lunch. Breakfast and a little bit of school.
The time had come to leave the RV and get to the meat of our journey. We dug out our bug gear for the first real dose of black flies and packed for 11 days of life on the land. To the dehydrated packages prepared weeks earlier,
oh, if we get them in, they'll never come out.
we added fresh bought goods that, unfortunately, didn't fit in our
never gonna come
bear-proof
out of there.
containers quite as planned.
To get them in. All in here, right down to the lunch, and that's 3 days worth of food for all 4 of us. We're falling on our
Is
heads
this
while
the
we're
big
done.
one, Daddy?
Yeah.
Making sure that I had everything we needed for my painting and filming, plus all the gear necessary for family camping in the remote backcountry, kept me up most of the night.
We're just about to go off and lift off on the plane.
At last, we were breaking free from the road. A 400-kilometer flight northeast of Inuvik took us to the oceanside community of Pawatuck. From there, we would head further east over the Arctic terrain to the Brock River, near the edge of Tuktonogai National Park, where spectacular canyons carve through the landscape. My artistic goals often drive me far into the wilderness, and in so doing brings me through small, isolated towns. Pawatuck was the most remote to date, and our time there helped us to appreciate a different culture and way of life. For our girls especially, it opened their eyes to a bigger world.
Sure, because I'd like to have tomorrow to sort of plan things.
Kids have a way of breaking communication barriers, and it wasn't long before Andy and Sid had made a bunch of new friends.
I didn't know what else.
So have you shot the caribou yourself?
No, I was. Oh, that's your painting?
Yep, this is the painting of. I sat on the rocks and I started to paint it, but then I finished it later in the studio.
In Pawatuck, we discovered a meeting of modern and traditional life. Even while high-speed internet was being implemented in this community of 300, many were out on the land to harvest the game and fish that form a major part of the Inuvialuit diet.
No, I think she died because sickness.
Three white things. Them are tents or people are there doing some fishing.
Oh, okay. Well, those are tents to like throw away.
Yep, same as
Okay.
the one you.
Maybe we can catch them.
Oh yeah, you probably will. You probably will. No doubt. Jonah
Yeah, just
is
bring a
more
couple back.
knowledgeable of that area. Like he grew up since he was a kid in that area. So
Watch it.
Before leaving Pawatuck for the backcountry, we met up with Steve, and along with his daughter, explored the hills around town. The sun had only recently started to set again, and it didn't dip below the horizon till 1 a.m. But darkness doesn't follow day at this time of year, and the bright twilight kept us awake well into the night.
the pinnacles are Jonah. Those real like this here and that area. They're just gorgeous area. It's true. We need the two tents there. Some pretty treacherous area, high area.
Two dangerous river crossings stood in our way, and our guides, Jonah and Steve, were concerned that an upset in the strong currents would be devastating to our family. To avoid this possibility altogether, we packed a boat with the family and our gear and headed east for an hour-long ride on the Arctic Ocean, bypassing the rivers. The guides would then travel lightly by land, make the crossings, and pick us up at a fishing camp.
All right. We did. Finally.
Upon arrival, we were greeted by the Inuvialuit who were catching Arctic char for their winter stocks. After visiting for a while and exchanging a
Looks
few
like a
stories,
cozy place.
we continued our journey into the Arctic wilderness.
Too much weight, too much of daddy's stuff.
Coming like all morning. It's not going, Joe.
Make a seal?
Princess.
There must be a better place for a flat tire than the tundra. Taking what we needed for a temporary camp, we carried on and tried to cover the balance of the 72 kilometers to the Brock River. Steve would then head back home, while Jonah would backtrack to retrieve the rest of our gear that sat under the Arctic sky. The rugged terrain made for a slow and very rough ride. It was comforting having someone who knew the land so well, as it would have been easy to get lost out here. But even though the fellas had been guides for most of their lives, we were heading into territory that was quite unfamiliar to them. Although I'll admit to having mixed feelings about how all-terrain vehicles might impact upon a wilderness experience, they were eased a little with the realization that there was no other way we would have gone where we did as a family with our 500 pounds of gear. These machines also allowed Jonah, and others like him, to access the land where age and health might otherwise be prohibitive. We never did make it to the Brock that day. While Jonah headed back for the rest of our gear, and with the sun beginning to set, we pitched our tent atop an unnamed hill in the middle of the Arctic. The fog moved in like a wall, with no sign of Jonah. This would make it impossible for him to navigate back before it cleared. We would be on our own that night, with the company of Jonah's husky, Princess, who would keep watch for grizzlies.
I don't usually feed Sydney, but if I help her eat, the oatmeal stays hot long enough.
Potatoes should be ready shortly.
Are you watching for grizzlies?
I don't see any behind you.
I don't know why they stay here.
We saw a couple caribou on the way in though.
Life is so harsh for them. You think that they would just all move south where there's more food. I guess they just like it here. It's very beautiful. The scenery is very beautiful. Kind of like you're on the moon.
Never reached yesterday because of the fog and whatever.
And flat tires and everything else.
Yeah.
We still made it here.
We never quit.
It took until 1 o'clock the next afternoon before Jonah could finally return, at which point we resumed our trek to our base camp destination just west of Tuktanogai National Park. Our vantage point? The edge of a plateau overlooking the Brock River Canyon.
Now we're locked in. You want to finish this one? See, you get a good angle on it, okay? Yeah, you got it.
This would be our home for the next week, and provide inspiration for my first canvases in the Arctic.
I'm gonna blow my nose and need to get a drink.
The incredible view offered from our campsite near the edge of the cliff was breathtaking. Little did I realize how my choice of campsite would later place my family in danger's way. Surrounded by dramatic new landscapes, I was eager to get painting. Due to our cliffside location, a short, albeit steep, hike in any direction offered a myriad of vistas. While the girls did their art, I sought out my own perspectives. At last, after a month and a half since we left Caledon, I was going to begin fulfilling my dream of trying to capture this stunning Arctic landscape on canvas. Or so I thought.
A big storm moving in, it looks like. Jonah's taken his ATV and tied off our tent to it. might be cut a little short. I went down there to set up to try to get this big scene over there, which I've been eyeing the last couple of days. I know it looks pretty clear over there, but you'll see when I get back up to camp, it's quite a wicked looking storm that's coming our way. I want to make sure everything's okay. Whew, she's looking pretty nasty. What do you think of this storm?
Well, this is a big one.
Think your tents are going to hold up?
Oh yeah. You and I will hold them up.
As hard as we could as we braced ourselves against a wind that was just pounding. The decision to pitch the tent near the edge of the cliff may not have been the wisest one. It looked great earlier when we set it up, and that's primarily why I did it. I kind of regret that now. Got a nice view, but we may have put ourselves in a bit of potential danger. Because this wind was just howling heavily. Lightning was striking just outside there. And I actually pulled Buddy's sled over so that we could tie it off just to be a little safer. Poor little Sydney was crying her eyes out. The thunder, the lightning, the hail, the worst storm we've ever seen. And Janet's gone with the girls now over to Jonah's tent, which is a lower tent and doesn't take the wind so much. So how does this one rank in Nunavut history?
Oh, this one broke everything. Every record ever.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Our tent is right on the edge of the cliff.
Yeah,
That's what I didn't like.
Yeah.
Yes, Daddy learned his lesson on that one. I don't think I'll be doing that again. Hey, Andy?
I just hope I'm not a lightning rod.
Well, we have electricity in our bodies too, Andy.
Yeah, your hair can stick it up.
That's because mine's too dirty to stick up.
And just when we thought we were through the worst of it, round two.
Anybody want the crust? Okay, I'll have it.
Well, I guess it's raining and settling.
After the great and humbling storm, more rain and wind settled in. This was followed by a heavy fog that was to keep us tent bound for days.
Moving day. We're not going very far, just down in the middle of the field after our little incident. Looks like it might clear a little bit more later, so we decided to all have it down. Relax a while the wind's still blowing, and hopefully wake up to some sun or at least some lighter skies and go back out and explore some more.
Thank you. Good.
It's amazing how good things taste while out camping,
Better?
Good, eh?
Well, the coffee's heating up.
especially Jonah's camp coffee, that we enjoyed as much for its warmth as for its flavor.
Saw some pretty bad damage here. It was okay when I went in the pack, but a few hours on the ATV didn't help any over the rough Arctic terrain.
I enjoy painting in any weather, but with a fog as thick as soup, I couldn't see anything outside. I would never have guessed after all my planning that my first painting above the Arctic Circle would be from inside our tent. Jonah was a gracious subject though, and it was great to have the opportunity to paint someone so closely connected to the land.
Andy, you ready for some bacon this morning?
I get a cold. It's the first day we're out here.
Well, no wonder, look at you, you're in your bare feet out in the Arctic.
Oh yeah, it's recording. Thanks a lot, Dad.
Hook down the...
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Get him, Andy. Get him.
I'm being abused. Hey. It's about midnight. We've got a full moon rising behind us for a change. And it's just gorgeous out here by the canyons. The girls are really starting to get a little homesick, and I guess I am too a little bit. It's been a long trip. Oh, here comes one of them right now. Hey, what's up, sweetie?
It's so cold.
Yeah. Did you see that moonrise over there?
Yeah, it's huge.
It's gorgeous, eh?
It's what size of a marble in the end.
Looks like parental duty's called, so I better get back to work.
Oh yeah, right.
The weather finally cleared, and the incredible scenes that caught my eye the first evening we arrived were now mine to revisit, and I got busy. This vista was so striking and vast that none of the canvases I brought would be large enough to do it justice. So I selected a smaller linen-mounted panel and began to develop a study for a big painting back in the studio. Making a thin wash with my oil paints, I sketched in the scene loosely, adjusting along the way. It's a challenge to absorb such an expansive scene and translate it into such a small space. By squinting, details are simplified, allowing me to focus on the main shapes and keep things in perspective. Steve rode back out from Polituck to relieve Jonah, who had flown out from the field for a contract. We scouted a path through the Brock River that until now we had been overlooking from a distance. After finding a way, which was a challenge due to the steep bank gullies that went on for miles, we headed down for a change of scenery. It was a nice break from being up on the cliff-surrounded plateau, where the girls had been unable to explore much because of the dangers presented. The grayling cooperated, there was a creek to climb through, and countless rocks to discover and even get your fingers pinched between. We were in a place that few people throughout time had ever set foot. Surrounded by the magnificent walls of the canyon, it felt like a natural cathedral, with the never-ending music of the river singing praise to the Creator. Finding some dry willow pieces lying around, we enjoyed our first Arctic campfire. This was something my family and I missed greatly from camping trips back home, and we enjoyed each other's company until the embers glowed. With time to start one more painting before moving on from the Brock River Canyon, I hiked out from camp for another incredible view of this Arctic landscape. Perched at the edge of the canyon, I felt a little like the peregrine falcons that made their home here. While they rode the currents above the river, we could see the gerfalcons looking down from higher above. So suited to this environment, they find the solitude and space they need to carry on their lives undisturbed by human encroachment. With our last lunch on the plateau behind us, and a whole morning of packing up camp, we began our trek back to Pawatuck. I drove Jonah's ATV, left behind when he flew out, for the ride of a lifetime, punctuated by a few lone caribou. Steve led the way, crossing rivers and all. Before it was over, I would have absorbed an eyeful of Arctic landscapes and have driven for 11 hours, arriving back in the community after midnight with sore arms. The long drive also gave me time to reflect on our journey so far and what was still to come. With the change of season underway, exploring along the Dempster again gave us a fresh new palette of colors. A tundra that was lush green only a few weeks earlier was now carpeted in reds, oranges, and yellows. Despite the often heavy fog, the richness of the land was amazing. The caribou had begun to gather in larger groups for migration, and the land was coming to life in preparation for the closing of another summer. I found a small, unnamed creek flowing through the landscape. Winding along the gully, it caught my eye and represented a gentler, more lush side of the Arctic. The contrast with the surrounding vast tundra made for a captivating composition, and I set about to start a new painting.
Well, I'm going to set this up, Sid, on top of here, and I'm hoping...
As a painter working outdoors, dealing with changing conditions is part of the process. So when the rain came, the girls helped me to pitch the tarp that I keep in my pack.
How's it going there, Sid?
Good.
It's not going anywhere yet?
No.
We didn't get very far.
A bear? Don't run, don't run. Take my hand. Okay. And don't run. We're just going to stay calm. Let the bear see us. Not too close. There we go.
We're running this way.
Look at him. Good.
Our first grizzly bear encounter in the wild. While we felt quite vulnerable out there on the open land, there was also a sense of awe and wonder.
I'll stay up here and bear watch while you guys go down there.
With the rain not letting up any, it was back to work.
How can everybody fit under there?
Oh, do you gotta go bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay, just a minute, okay, honey?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you feel better?
Yeah.
Sid, is it holding it good?
Yep.
Okay, let go, Sid. Let's see if that's gonna work. Hey, not bad. Use whatever we have at hand, eh? Is it working? All right. Is that gonna push it all the way down?
Yes.
And we're dry. So I can throw all my garbage in there. How's that work?
Good.
Some are soft and some are hard. Takes a long time to get going.
That's for you, but not for me.
It works, Sid, and no wasting any time. Outside of the bag.
Mom wants to know what you guys are doing.
Well, Daddy's painting now, Sydney's drawing, and you're probably getting hungry, right?
Uh-huh.
And to be picking up because it's raining again, so we get the tarp ups.
That's all you got done?
You know how much
Several more days of exploring along the Dempster ensued, with only the rare encounter of another vehicle. I found it challenging with all this incredible beauty to focus on one thing when there's so much to see. But that's a problem I'll take any day. Trying to catch the light as it touched down across the land, we ran up and down the road, usually to find that it had already moved. It felt a bit like a race, with the prize always hanging just out of reach. Instead, I turned my attention to pattern, composition, and color, and settled down in the rain to capture the more subtle beauty found under these conditions.
So, gotta finish loading here. They'll be waiting for me.
With Janet and the girls comfortably settled back in Inuvik, I jumped on a Twin Otter for a flight northwest over the amazing Mackenzie Delta. Over a fifth of Canada's water drains out to the Arctic Ocean through this maze of channels and lakes that covers a massive region just west of town. I was on my way to Ivavik National Park as part of their Arts in the Park program headed up by Pat Dunn. One of 5 artists, along with park staff, we'd be spending a creative week near the Firth River in the heart of over 10,000 kilometers of wilderness. Ivavik was established in part to protect a portion of the calving grounds of the porcupine caribou herd that earlier in the year would have crossed the Firth in droves of over 100,000. Some time was spent exploring and painting along the spectacular Firth, and then I got ready for the mountains. One of the other artists in the group was friend Martin Berkman, who would be joining me on this adventure. For the next few days, I would be completely immersed in this Arctic wilderness. The ancient mountains underfoot allowed entry into compelling wild spaces that ignited my sense of wonder. Four grueling hours of hiking, due more to the load of gear that I brought with me than the moderate elevation, took us to a point where we could access surrounding vistas in every direction. Finding a depression alongside the mountain to help shelter us from the heavy winds, camp was set, and I was ready for a break. Life abounds everywhere in this Arctic landscape, but it can elude those who don't bend down for a closer look. With loose gravel and hard rock leaving little for plants to hold on to, the delicate ecosystem around my feet can take a very long time to recover here once dislodged.
After a beautiful clear night last night when we really thought that we had a chance at a sunrise. But with the bad weather has also come some incredible lighting through the day. As it starts to clear a little bit, we have some patchy light that's taking place across the mountains, which is really creating some beautiful contrast in the scenery.
The weather was a constant challenge, with temperatures near the freezing point, shifting fog, rain, heavy winds, and the sun only peeking out for minutes a day. But what a reward when the light would cut through the gray and kiss the ground. British mountains, and much of the surrounding region, escaped the changing impacts of glaciation. The many rocky protrusions called tors jut up toward the sky like sentinels across the landscape, are unique evidence of this history and contribute to the feeling of having been transported to another world and another time. Inspiration is not hard to come by in this place, yet channeling that inspiration into a canvas that I hope will do justice to this incredible creation is challenging and humbling. I am tempted to continue exploring further, wanting to see what lies beyond the next ridge. But chasing the view could very easily lead to endless heights, exhaustion, and never actually painting anything. Then, as often happens through this process, I stumble across a scene that completely takes me. I forget everything else and dive into my pack.
What happens when you don't put the tarp away properly, I guess, eh? Well, I think we might be actually getting somewhere here. This just makes it more interesting. There we go. Yeah. Get back. Oh, go, baby. Well, you might want to pack it then and call it a day.
Rejoining the family, we made the long drive home, enriched with a lifetime of memories. In the end, I brought home 15 paintings, some that will be developed into larger works back in the studio. Having only touched on a small corner of this Arctic wilderness, I'm eager to head back for the next 2 expeditions of our 3-year project to complete this collection with more incredible vistas from the north. I hope these experiences can transcend my paintings and share with those who view them the mystery, beauty, and importance of this part of our planet.